Billionaires have a right to exist?
I don't think that we should have billionaires.
Do I see him as an enemy of America?
Yeah.
What he's saying? You're damn right I do. I think he's going to destroy New York City. This guy becomes mayor, the city is gone.
Deeply bigoted, and that's what Rudy Giuliani was. Bigoted nonsense, total trash. You ignore every lie he just said.
I'd like to say Rudy Giuliani's been listening and actually didn't really want to leave us, so we've got Rudy back. Rudy, welcome back. Almost 8 months on from the presidential election, and it's still unclear who is leading the Democrats and whether they'll campaign from the centre, the left, or the very, very left. Well, Zohran Mamdani may offer a clue. He's a charismatic Muslim socialist who doesn't believe billionaires should exist, and he just won a stunning victory in the Democratic primary for mayor of New York City, the biggest in the United States. Some of his policies are already raising eyebrows.
We went on your website and realized there's a policy proposal that says your plan, and I'm going to quote it for folks, is to shift the tax burden from overtaxed homeowners in the outer boroughs to more expensive homes in richer and whiter neighborhoods.
Wow.
Explain why you are bringing race into your tax proposal.
That is just a description of what we see right now. It's not driven by race. It's more of an assessment of what neighborhoods are being undertaxed versus overtaxed.
Well, the backlash has been swift and in some cases, let's face it, racist. Congressman Andy
Yeah, to be honest, that is poor choice of words. He should have not used distinctions like that. He should have just said richer neighborhoods, not whiter neighborhoods. That does cause red flags for a lot of people.
Called him Little Muhammad, while Nancy Mace accused voters of, quotes, forgetting 9/11, close quotes. Marjorie Taylor Greene posted a picture of a Statue of Liberty in a burqa before later praising him in an interview with Tucker Carlson.
That's pretty funny, actually, to be fair.
That guy was the only person in the New York City mayor's debate to say he wanted to focus on New York City. All the candidates were asked, if you could visit a foreign country, what would it be? And they all, of course, all had an answer. I think most said Israel. Great. And he said, I wouldn't go anywhere. I'd stay in New York. And like, if I want to meet Jewish constituents, I'd go to their synagogues, their homes or whatever, but I'd be here in New York because that's what I'm doing. I'm running New York. That's my job.
Well, he gave the right answer.
He gave the right answer.
Yeah.
Well, Mayor Eric Adams, who was elected as a Democrat but is running as an independent, accuses Mamdani of, quotes, embracing Hamas, close quotes. What's most revealing, though, is the icy reception from serving senior Democrats, including the current House leader and the New York governor.
Let's start with the big news, Leader Jeffries, out of your hometown. Mamdani won a big victory. Have you endorsed him yet?
I have not. And frankly, stylistically, and I'm not a socialist, and I don't associate myself with what he has said about the Jewish people.
Will you support his candidacy? And
I mean, what do you mean what he said about the Jewish people? He hasn't necessarily said anything bad about the Jewish people. I want to be, like, fair here as well. You can't just, like, make these outrageous claims that aren't necessarily true. The truth is, Zohran has made a really great campaign. He's connected to a lot of young people. He has policies that are definitely questionable in terms of language. Maybe he needs to clean it up a little bit. But if he works on his cleanup and execution, he has a real big chance of kind of being quite a big deal for the Democratic Party moving forward if they want to go over that direction. So we'll see. Maybe Bernie Sanders needs to step in and kind of give some sort of direction or some sort of mentorship. Here and no.
will you back him?
You know, the election just completed. I had a chance to call and congratulate him on the Tuesday's primary and look forward to having conversation. Obviously, there's areas of difference.
Well, 10 years ago, the UK's Labour Party ran a very left-wing campaign which saw them walloped in the general election. They responded by appointing Jeremy Corbyn as a leader, a radical elder socialist who, funnily enough, was ousted in an anti-Semitism scandal. The bottom line is that the democratic identity crisis is no closer to a resolution now than it was on November the 5th. Meanwhile, President Trump is racking up win after win after win, and the left has nobody to burst his balloon. So the biggest winner in the current DNC civil war is probably MAGA. In a moment, we'll debate all this with my panel. Founder and CEO of the Young Turks, Cenk Uygur, Newsnation correspondent, Geraldo Rivera, and the former DNC fundraiser, Lindy Lee. But first, to give us plenty of debate, I'm sure, I'm joined by the former mayor of New York, Rudy Giuliani. Rudy, great to have you back on Uncensored.
Rudy Giuliani.
Good to see you, Pierce.
One of Trump's
Your
advisors.
reaction to this character who's come out of nowhere, and now the whole of America's talking about him. What's your response to Mamdani mayhem?
A total shock, something I never thought I would see in New York. New York has always been a little bit more inclined to be reasonable when necessary. I mean, we're the only one of these crooked Democratic cities that at any time in the last 60 or 70 years has elected a Republican. Chicago, 70 years of Democrats. Detroit, I mean, you've had me, LaGuardia, Bloomberg. They don't have anything like that. No reform.
Is he
nothing. So
Rudy Giuliani,
plus we're the biggest.
One second. Rudy Giuliani. Down. Was he a Republican Party? Rudy Giuliani, the mayor politician, blah, 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 serves as the mayor of New York from 1924, when I was born, to 2001. Oh, okay. So New York has had Republican mayors. Interesting.
Biggest Jewish city. For a while, we were the biggest Jewish city in the world. I think Tel Aviv has now passed us. So this is a shock to me that somebody like
New York
this
was the biggest
would come
Jewish city
along.
in the world.
And it isn't even just the anti-Semitism and the anti-Jewish hate. We've almost gotten used to it in the streets of New York now over the last 2 to 3 years. This guy is a major supporter of Hamas. This is a terrorist group that wants to destroy not just Israel, they want to destroy America. Their children are taught from about 2 years old, death to Israel, death to America.
Rudy, where has he expressed any support for Hamas? Because I haven't seen that.
He hasn't.
Oh my goodness! I mean, he was by and large he wouldn't condemn what they did when they wiped out
that doesn't mean
the Israeli people. He has refused to condemn them. He refused to acknowledge they're a terrorist group. Every time he's asked, he just kind of punts on the question. He has very, very, very strong statements that sound a lot like Hamas, Intifada forever, Intifada all over the world.
Set up.
And then he tries to claim that he has his own definition of Intifada. Sorry, Zohran, you're not entitled to your own definition of Intifada. They've killed about 8,000 people. That kind of sets a definition for it. We know what you're talking about. So I think you could put together a case that he supports an internationally acknowledged terrorist group that is a close ally of Iran. I mean, remember, although one is Sunni and the other is Shia, and they hate each other, Iran and Hamas, they join on two things: destroy Israel, destroy America. Death to America, death to Israel. That's what brings Iran and Hamas together.
But Rudy, why if you believe he's so, the way you've just categorized, why are so many New Yorkers in a city, as you said, which has more Jews outside of Israel than any city in the world, why would they have rallied behind this guy if he's such an enemy of Jewish people?
Well, Piers, that's a very good question. It leads me to what's wrong with the people of my city. What's wrong with the people of Chicago? I mean, they had a mayoral primary a couple of years ago, and they picked the most outrageous, the most radical, and the dumbest candidate for mayor, who's now a complete disaster. And they've been doing it for 65 years, even though they're a shooting gallery every Saturday night. There's a brainwashing that has taken place in these old Democrat cities. It's the same reason why you'll go into some districts in New York and Biden got 95% of the vote. How could that have happened if the people are thinking clearly? How do we elect de Blasio? De Blasio went to Cuba on his honeymoon. He was in favor of the Sandinistas, and his mother was a member of the Communist Party at Harvard. And then after his first term, he was a complete failure. We had a 22% turnout, and we reelected him. And he's the one who really destroyed the city. I mean, he literally took everything Bloomberg and I did and trashed it. I get people that come up to me on the street crying and saying to me, "You must feel awful. Everything you did was ruined."
But Rudy, when you have a Muslim candidate in a city like New York,
crazy,
and people start evoking 9/11, start putting burqas on the Statue of Liberty and all the stuff I played earlier, does that not make you feel uncomfortable? New York is one of the most inclusive cities in the world, right? A place normally that's very tolerant to many different religions, many different colors and creeds, right? Surely you would feel uncomfortable as the mayor of New York when that appalling terror attack happened. Are you comfortable that people use 9/11 as a stick to beat him with?
Nobody's doing that, Piers.
Well, they are.
I was the people who protected the Muslim people after 9/11. People expected a tremendous amount of reaction against them. And Bernie Kerik and I put together a task force for 4 weeks, and there was no attack in New York, not a single one, even though you might have expected one, given the kind of emotion involved. And I talked, one of the first things I said as I was telling my people to please be careful and watch out, there might be another attack, is do not touch anybody. We're not going to be like them. We don't hate Muslim people. We hate the people who did this. And we have to make it clear to them that we can stand up to them. But then again, I'm not a fool. I know there are a substantial number of Muslims, and there's a substantial amount of the Quran that talks about slaughtering Christians and Jews. And there's a whole group of Muslims who believe that. And unfortunately, an undetermined number of them got into this country in the last 4 years, unlike any other time in our history, because of our pathetic President Biden, who also gave Iran hundreds of millions of dollars, and Obama did it in cash.
But
So
would
I don't
you
know
have a
what's going
problem,
on.
Rudy? Would you have a problem with a Muslim mayor of New York? Tax day has passed, but for millions of Americans, that's where the trouble begins. The IRS is now ramping up enforcement for those who missed the April deadline or still owe back taxes. Well, today's sponsor, Tax Network USA, can still help. If your books are a mess, if you're self-employed, or if you're a business owner, Tax Network USA specializes in cleaning up financial chaos and getting you back on track quickly. They say the IRS is a dead act, not the IRS.
All right, let's go back.
Not if he told me he would write out the portion of the Quran where Muhammad is exhorting the people to kill Christians and Jews, and telling him if he doesn't kill them, they should get tribute from them. If he's like some of the imams that I'm close to who can write that out and can say that, I'd be very comfortable with him. If he's dominated by that sick pathological philosophy, which dominates not all Muslims, but more than a comfortable amount, given all the killing they've done, then I have a real problem with it. And he doesn't sound like a moderate Muslim. He sounds like a Muslim extremist.
You said
I don't know. I don't feel like he sounds like an extremist Muslim. To be fair, he doesn't even pray. He doesn't even he doesn't even have the similar qualities as an extreme Muslim. He doesn't even talk like a Muslim, like an extremist Muslim.
Rudy, that you think there may need to be an investigation to see if Mamdani is an enemy of America. Is that the kind of language that is sensible? You said, Mr. Benny Johnson.
I don't know. I just think this is ridiculous because, I enjoy the passion and fight of this situation, but it's also ridiculous. You need to allow people to speak their minds and allow them to, even if they're wrong, do that. But I think this is a bit like the woke right attacking the left. This is like the version of the woke right attacking the left right now.
I didn't mean an investigation criminal. I meant for the purpose of voting. You and I should do the investigation as voters.
Do you really see him as an enemy of America?
Do I see him as an enemy of America?
Yeah.
What he's saying? My personal.
Yes.
You're damn right I do. I think he's going to destroy New York City. I think this is a disaster time for New York City. This guy becomes mayor, the city is gone. People are leaving the city already. You can't say things like the things he's saying and not frighten the hell out of people. I mean, it has nothing to do with even 9/11. Had 9/11 not happened, he'd be an enemy of the city. He's espousing a philosophy that wants to destroy America, wants to destroy the Jewish people, wants to destroy the Christian people. I really would like to destroy all.
I get the sentiment, but what has he said that's anything resembling that? I want to know. I'm genuinely curious.
The Muslims who disagree with him. And he is a very strong supporter of that, and he doesn't make a distinction. And he becomes very cute and stupid and silly. Plus, he's totally unqualified. He's a 33-year-old do-nothing from a rich family who's never accomplished a damn thing in his life. Whenever we've gotten a mayor like that, he's been a terrible failure, like de Blasio. This guy's not an accomplished man.
De Blasio.
He's a rich kid who has learned excessive, crazy philosophy so that he can sound smart, I think. That's the best explanation I can give of him. It might be worse.
Rudy Giuliani, always good to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed for joining me.
Thanks, Piers. Good to see you. You look great.
Just so you guys know,
Thank you.
Rudy
Thank you.
Giuliani was mayor of New
debate
York
this now
City
with,
from 1994 to 2001. That was during the 9/11 attacks, and that was his opinion on Zohran Mamdani. So, but keep going.
Geraldo and Lindy. Well, Cenk, you were putting a lot of faces there. What did you make of what Rudy Giuliani said?
Yeah, your audience should ignore everything Rudy Giuliani just said. Everything was a lie. Mamdani's never supported Hamas, never said the word Intifada, doesn't hate Jews or Christians. Muslims don't have to write out parts of the Quran. It would be absurd to say, hey, if you're a Jew running for mayor, you've now got to write out parts of the Torah or the Talmud. Otherwise, we don't accept Jews. If you said you're a Christian running, but you've got to cancel out parts of the Bible, otherwise we won't let Christians run. It would be deeply bigoted. And that's what Rudy Giuliani was. Bigoted nonsense, total trash. Ignore every lie he just said. Now, let's talk about, look, there's three.
Yeah, I kind of agree with Cenk there. I think he's actually. I haven't seen Zohran Mamdani say this crazy stuff. I just haven't seen it. Like, I want to see it if it's true, but I haven't seen this. Like, it just doesn't make any sense.
Different types of people going against Mamdani. There's the economic criticism, which is interesting, legitimate, and debate-worthy. Then there's the people who are opposed to him because he won't bow his head to Israel. And that's Rudy. And that's almost everyone in Democratic establishment and the Republican establishment. So those folks say, no, that's it. This guy won't bow. If he won't bow to Israel, if he's New York first, unacceptable. He has to be Israel first. And that's absurd. And they're deeply racist and they're bigots, and I can't stand it. So there's other critiques of Mamdani we can get into, but in terms of this whole attack against him being Muslim and him not kissing Israel's ass is totally not relevant to New York and is only an argument made by bigots. So I hope I've been clear enough.
I think you've made your position very clear. Geraldo, welcome back.
Well, I think several things. Nice to see you, Piers and panel. I think, first of all, he has used the expression Intifada. He wants to globalize the Intifada, and he speaks about it quite often.
When does he say that?
Let me finish. Secondly, I agree with you. I agree with you. Please, it's not.
Let's have a look.
It's on the record. Just look it up. The second thing is that the whole notion.
He's never said it.
The whole notion of moving the tax burden in New York from the richer, whiter neighborhoods to the richer, whiter neighborhoods, as if the richer, whiter neighborhoods don't pay enough in tax. We've had enormous flight of the people who do pay tax to the suburbs and to other states. And all we have to do is increase the tax, the real estate tax, even more under his proposal. And you'll.
All right, guys, just today. So, according to ChatGPT, Zohran Mamdani, the Democratic nominee for the New York mayor, has not used the phrase global intifada himself. However, he has faced significant scrutiny for declining to condemn the slogan globalize the intifada, which is associated with pro-Palestinian activism interpreted by many as call for violence against Jews. In a June 2025 interview on NBC's Meet the Press on Tuesday, that's not language that I use, but refrain from explicitly denouncing the phrase. He emphasized his commitment to protecting Jewish New Yorkers and combating anti-Semitism, highlighting plans to increase funding for anti-hate crime programs. Okay, so he's wrong.
Have no taxable base. You'll have no rich white people to pay the tax. The third thing, and curiously, I agree in a twisted way about the situation with the Palestinians. I believe that what you saw, and this is the underreported headline, I believe, is that you saw
this. As a polypost in New York, Senator Christian Gillibrand, which is a Democratic person, I believe, has reportedly apologized to New York City mayoral candidate Zohran Mamdani for saying he referred to global jihad in the past. A readout Politico obtained said Mamdani and Gillibrand talked Monday night on the call mid-voting Trump's Big Beautiful Bill. Gillibrand apologized for mischaracterizing Mamdani's record, and her tone on the call stayed the readout, according to Politico. When researched for comment, Gillibrand's office directed the Hill to a post on the social platform X by CNN reporter Edward Isaac Dover. They seemed to feature a screenshot of the readout. During a recent appearance on radio host Brian Dummy, so blah blah blah. Alarmed by political statements, Mamdani has made defense of those who call for global Intifada. The New York Democrat said that Mamdani has referred to global jihad during his appearance, with her communications director saying in a post up next that she most spoke. This is a very serious issue because people glorify the slaughter of Jews, create fear in our communities. The global Intifada is a statement that means destroy Israel and kill all Jews, Gillibrand said during the appearance. Where's... But when has he ever said it? I don't think he's ever said that. Yeah, I don't think he's ever said it. Not once.
Cataclysmic shift in the Jewish vote. It was a generational shift. Older Jews and in neighborhoods that were 100% Jews, like the Hasidic neighborhoods and others, they went with Governor Cuomo in the Democratic primary just passed. The people who voted against Cuomo and for Mamdani were the young Jewish voters who are activists, who are in the hundreds of thousands in New York. They are, half of that generation in the city of New York. They are part of the lifeblood of the city. They rejected their parents' Israel always and forever, no matter what kind of view, and they are sick to death of what's happening in Gaza. They can't stand to see Israel continue to wage this very, very unfair, violent campaign against civilians in Gaza. Now you're not talking about Iran, you're not talking about Syria or Hezbollah or the big picture, but you're talking specifically about what's going on in Gaza. It has sickened. I know I have kids in New York. Two of my children live in New York. Two now, I just hesitate because one just moved, but two live in New York. They vote in New York. I voted for Giuliani. I voted for Bloomberg. But to see these kids are rejecting their parents, Israel always and forever, no matter what, and saying, wait a second, Israel has to be held to the same standard as any other nation. We're not going to let you push us. And we are voting, and they rejected the Democratic establishment candidate and the old school ways, and they embrace something much more energetic and humane and compassionate, I believe.
Yeah, and I think also I would add to that, Cuomo is hardly a clean whistle when it comes to candidates. There's a lot of baggage there, which people have probably not forgotten, and memories live long. Lindy, you were listening to that quite intently. I mean, it's a really interesting political story, isn't it? That this guy, Mamdani's come out of nowhere, and he's basically taking down one of the most experienced politicians in the country in Andrew Cuomo. It's not over yet, but it's looking pretty perilous for Cuomo. You were part of the Democratic machine. What do you put this down to?
It is pretty much over because Cuomo won't quit. So Cuomo and Eric Adams are both running. So what do you think is going to happen? They're going to split the opposition vote to Mamdani. So chances are he's going to be the next mayor. And Cenk, I just want to say my opposition to him has nothing at all to do with Israel or his faith. It's nothing. It's to do with his Marxist ideology. And I have to say, I feel sick to my stomach because of it. I was born in an authoritarian communist regime that murdered my great-grandfather in cold blood. So anything that reeks of communism just sends shivers down my spine. And every one of his proposals, from taxing wider neighborhoods to government-run groceries to free buses, all of these policies will end up hurting the very people he purports to want to help. And Pierce, he brought up a really good question when you.
I didn't realize how passionate she was against anti-capitalism, but that's fine. But I want to know how that's true. Like, I want to know, and in a structured way, like, what part about it makes that happen? What part about it means that free buses means your grandpa's going to get murdered? I want to know how that's even the thing.
Speaking with Rudy, you asked him why so many New Yorkers voted for this guy.
Yeah.
But let me put it into perspective for everybody. Only 5% of New Yorkers did. Most people didn't even bother showing up. So 5% of one of the biggest cities in the world is actually not a significant amount at all. It's kind of it's just really unrepresentative of where the city is.
Okay, well, where was
Many
everyone?
of us carry around
Where
bulky,
was
worn-out
everyone?
wallets that are uncomfortable and full of junk. The big question is why. Ridge wallets can hold 12 cards plus cash with zero bulk. They're made from premium materials like aluminum, titanium, and carbon fiber. And they're built with RFID blocking technology to defend your card. Get 10% off at Ridge by using code and tell them at the same time that is. Well, I mean, to a point, but at the same time, that is what the vote was, and it has come as a real political earthquake, not least everything to the Democrats themselves, who must be thinking, what the hell is happening here?
Yeah. And the Democratic Party is completely broken. We've tread this ground so many times. They're a vestige of a past. But I want to say that this isn't so much a vindication or endorsement of Mamdani as a flat-out rejection of Andrew Cuomo and everything he represents.
Okay.
Everyone from left to right sees him as a deeply corrupt individual who should never be anywhere near public office again.
Okay, well, listening to all this, I can delight to say Rudy Giuliani has been listening and actually didn't really want to leave us, so we've got Rudy back. Rudy, welcome back. So just to clarify what a few of the panelists...
By the way, you and I have exchanged a lot of mean tweets. I want to apologize. I don't know. You blocked me. I think you were very angry. I just want to take this opportunity to extend an olive branch.
Wow. Okay, Rudy.
Well, I'm not aware of them. I wonder if they were as excessive as the original attack on me by I thought my friend there. Highly personal and really nasty.
Oh, it wasn't as bad as Shanks, yeah.
But in any event, I mean, he's actually quoted. I have it here at two different events, using the word globalized to the Intifada, your candidate, Zohran. And then he weasels out of it by, well, I mean, just go look at it as you were just told. I mean, try something like
Rudy,
reading.
you're missing the
So
distinction.
read it,
He doesn't say it, but he also doesn't condemn it.
He defends it. Is that a lot better? Just yesterday on Meet the Press, when he was speaking with Kristen Walker, he defended the phrase again. Come on, it looks really bad. It's not something you should say.
He doesn't use it. There's a difference.
He defends
I think the key point is he doesn't condemn. He doesn't condemn it. Is the point, right? So he doesn't condemn it, which actually, in the modern climate, for a New York City potential mayor not to condemn a phrase like globalized intifada is a pretty big deal.
It's terrible. It's damning.
Well, the reality is, he tries to redefine the Intifada as his own definition of the Intifada. It's not violent. Well, go tell that to the thousands of people that have been killed. I used to go to Israel in the late 90s and the early 2000s when Ehud Olmert was mayor. I've been in hospitals seeing girls whose faces were ripped apart by Hamas. There was an Intifada. There were two of them. It killed thousands of people, and it has no other definition. And the guy's playing a sick communist game of double speak.
Not true either.
And let me bring Cenk. I want to bring Cenk back in. Hang on.
He's a total empty suit.
Let me bring Cenk back in, because another problem Mamdani may have as this goes on is he's on record as saying that he wants to defund the police. He's tried to distance himself from that, but he said it. He insisted that queer liberation means defund the police. I mean, again, the idea that somebody, maybe the mayor of New York, would actually have that as a quote on their record is pretty extraordinary. Is he going to be able to shake off these quotes like that, which to many New Yorkers would be complete anathema? And Rudy, when he was mayor of New York, famously the broken windows strategy of fixing the small stuff and police everywhere and empowering them and resourcing them and so on. And now you've got a guy who wants to defund the police.
You also...
What did he say he wanted to defund the police? I actually want to see. I see if ChatGPT knows. Has Zohran Mamdani said he wants to defund police? Yes, Zohran Mamdani has previously expressed support for defunding the police in June 2022. Tweeted, "We don't need an investigation to know why the new YPD is racist, anti-queer, and major threat to public safety. What we need is to defund the NYPD." He also made similar statements during his early campaigns, including a post saying queer liberation means defund the police. Damn. However, during his 2025 campaign, he has 50 stance in the final Democratic primary debate, saying, "I will not defund the police," a departure from his early position. Despite this change, the critics argue that his past statements and current proposals, such as creating a separate Department of Community Safety and expanding mental health response, reduce traditional policing roles. In summary, while Mamdani has previously advocated for defunding the police, his recent statements during the mayoral campaign indicate a shift away from that position. Okay. Interesting.
Them of being racist.
So just
he also accuses them of being racist when they are a non-majority police department. There's nothing racist about the New York City Police Department. The last time de Blasio did that, he got 2 cops killed, and that's what led to their turning their back on him. There was a riot in Baltimore, and de Blasio, like this other crazy communist, went out and said, "Oh, New York is racist too," and a guy came up from Baltimore. And he shot 2 detectives, assassinated them 4 days later. And that's why the cops
Rudy,
turned
the
their
question
backs
was to me.
on that guy.
All right, check.
These people are dangerous and they get people killed. And you know who gets killed? The black people get killed as a result of it. Yes,
Not
no?
just black
You don't know what the hell you're talking about.
All right, let's all talk at once. Cenk, you go. You go.
Okay, so a bunch of misnomers there. First of all, it was the highest voter turnout in a Democratic primary in a long time. I was part of the AOC campaign. We were counting on low voter turnout. Not in this case. The tide has changed. The younger people, like Geraldo said, are voting for change, and middle class is voting for change. So you guys play word games. But now to the main question that Piers was asking. Look, there's some of his policies that I don't agree with. I don't agree with defund the police. I wouldn't have had government-run grocery stores at the top of my list. I just wouldn't have, right? And I'm not saying it's a bad idea. I just wouldn't have prioritized it. So free buses, that's super interesting. I want to see how it works. These are not my policies, but the Democrats in New York elected him, and so let's let him give it a shot, right? So in terms of, defunding the police, again, let's be careful, and he is careful. He at least says it the right way. I don't like the phrase at all, but what he's talking about is moving some policies are for change. That's the third issue that I mentioned, Piers, in the beginning. And so overall, I'm for change. I'm against the establishment. So if this brother wants to try the grocery stores, he wants to try free buses, etc., let him take a shot at it. We've already seen what the establishment has to offer, and it's nothing but pulp. It's driven this country into the ground. I don't want another Cuomo. I don't want another Adams. I want change.
Well, it's really, let me just, I want to ask Geraldo actually first, then come to you, Lindy, because it's interesting actually that what Cenk just said, because the conservative writer, Rod Dreher, likened Mamdani's win to Trump's. He said New York left-wing voters, quotes, lashed out against what they regard as a failed liberal establishment, electing a charismatic populist who promised a clear break with the past. We on the right can shake our heads and laugh at how dumb New York liberals and progressives were to choose a candidate as politically inexperienced and radical as Mamdani, but don't miss that this was also a referendum on the Democratic Party itself. And, I do remember, Geraldo, when in 2015 Donald Trump came down the famous elevator saying, "I'm going to run for president," everyone mocking and laughing and saying he's got no experience, is a ridiculous candidate, quoting all sorts of incendiary things he'd said before, blah, 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 blah. And he won. And he's now won again. So is it mad for the Democrats to actually go for a young, kind of their version of Trump?
I think will, in New York at least, mostly be affected by people's wallets, by people's pocketbooks. There is no way that the middle class, the upper middle class, the strivers, the hard workers, the college-educated business creators, there's no way that they're going to tolerate more tax, more income tax. And to think that you're going to have free transit and free food and free housing, free everything. There's no such thing as a free lunch. My goodness, haven't we learned? There's no way to have socialism in a city that needs that needs the vibrancy.
He did say that. He did say free buses. He didn't say free food. It's just grocery stores that are state run. Let's be clear. There is some difference here with what he's saying. It's not as black and white as what he's saying right now.
Of Wall Street to create the jobs. It's not just the brokers it's the grocery guy on the corner of Wall Street. It's the Uber driver, et cetera, et cetera. If you take the tax base of New York and attack it anymore, it will be a failed city like so many others. And it's the last thing. We have to embrace the police. We have to embrace the job creators. We have to try to lower taxes in the richer, whiter neighborhoods so they don't go to Scarsdale and other communities, upscale communities that don't tax nearly as much. And in terms of the cops, my goodness, I voted for Giuliani and Bloomberg before him, and the change in the city over those 5 terms was extraordinary. It was a functioning, workable, integrated city where the goals and the dreams of socialists were realized with the fruits of capitalism. So I think,
look, there's a lot of grandstanding here. It's a lot of just saying things for the sake of saying them. There's a lot of misinformation on both ends. Like, there's some stuff that's being said that hasn't been said before. You can clearly see there's an agenda here, but this is the game of politics in America. This is the game of politics basically anywhere in the world. You're going to talk a lot absolute shit to get your way, and you have to talk smack about these people basically to get your way. And on both ends, they both do it. They both are just they're such liars and manipulators, and on every single level. I just don't understand where anyone wins at this stuff.
that this kid is way, way off the mark. But I also believe that if all these people run on independent lines, as promised now, Eric Adams, Andrew Cuomo, Curtis Sliwa, he could win.
Yeah.
You could have the first young Muslim, mayor of the biggest Jewish city in North America. It could happen, and it could happen particularly if the sore of Gaza continues to deep.
Yeah, I think you're right. Lindy.
By the way, wouldn't that be beautiful,
wait,
guys?
Jen,
Well, actually, it would be an amazing thing. It would be an
Muslim
amazing thing, and I actually thought that Cenk, that the way Geraldo framed it earlier, that hundreds of young Jewish people, male and female, who actually do not share the view that of their parents and grandparents, that you have to have just blind, devoted loyalty to Israel, particularly if its government is behaving in the way that it's currently behaving in Gaza.
And they voted for a Muslim mayor. And isn't that a beautiful thing about America? I mean, isn't that a beautiful thing about America, that we don't care about religion, that young Jewish voters and young Christian and Muslim voters could vote for a Muslim candidate because they believe in his economic message and his message of justice?
Guys, make sure you follow me, please, every time I go live.
Forget
Go
about
live in politics every day. You want to be a part of
substance.
You talk about him implementing change, but all of his promises are lies. When we can go through and debunk every single one. For example, he says he wants to offer free buses, but guess what's going to happen then? If you don't charge anything for buses, there's no funding for transportation coming in. So how are you going to maintain your infrastructure fleet? And if you control rent, the supply of housing is going to decrease and the quality will decrease as well. And most importantly, though, who's going to pay for it? When the governor of New York herself, Kathy Hochul, vowed that she would not be raising taxes. So every single thing he said was actually a lie. Either he knew it or he doesn't. I don't know which is better. Is it deception
or not a lie?
Well, I just told you. I gave
Lindy,
you 3
it's not a lie.
examples of things that could just cannot happen because the governor is not raising taxes. He can't operate in a vacuum. Okay, not everyone is a communist. You have to partner with other people in the government and collaborate. It's a whole of government approach.
So,
it's not a
Lindy,
microcosm.
You're saying you disagree with his approach, but to say that it's a lie doesn't make sense. No, he really does want free buses, and he has a plan for free buses. Now, you can say, hey, I don't think that plan is going to work, and I think it's going to have negative consequences. Well, good news. Let's hope we're about to find out, okay?
Well,
and maybe you're wrong. Maybe the free buses totally work out, and in fact, there are different ways to finance it.
I think he went into the campaign knowing that he was offering false promises to the New York people. Another thing that
what do you guys think in the chat? Free buses? Will that work? Can it work? Can you have a system where you're having, like, who pays for the buses? Who pays for the workers? Who pays for the petrol? Who pays for all the maintenance? Who pays for the new buses? Like, how will it work? or do you think the government should just fund it somehow and maybe increase the taxes, or that the rich people are paying for it, top 1% are paying for it with their taxes?
I find extremely alarming is saying that he said his ultimate goal is to seize the means of production. That is something straight out of Animal Farm right there. It has no place in the United States of America.
He certainly has. He's got a lot of quotes on his track record. I want to pivot just before we finish this. Rudy, I want to talk to you about Donald Trump, because you could argue the last 2 or 3 weeks have been the best, really, of his entire time as president, first and second term combined. You've got this extraordinary strike on Iran's nuclear capabilities and a ceasefire coming when people did not anticipate that happening
Zohran
so
Mamdani,
quickly. He's got NATO to stump up to 5% of GDP
Hey everyone,
on
welcome
individual
to my
spending. A massive win at the Supreme Court, of course. Peace deal in Africa. He brought peace between India and Pakistan when that was flaring up. He's moving hard to try and get peace in Gaza. He's moving hard to try and get peace in Ukraine. If we end up at the end of the year and there is peace in Ukraine, there is peace in Gaza, and all the other things I've mentioned here, not to mention the southern border has pretty much stopped now having anyone coming over illegally, and the economy, if that is purring away as well, given that the stock market's pretty much back where it was before the tariff war started, so he's obviously pleasing the markets. If you put all that together, this could be a stunning, successful year for Trump.
Well, Piers knows a lot of ifs, but they're all ifs that he's aiming toward. And I think people, because of their insanity about him, haven't recognized that there's a different
Hey
Donald
everyone,
Trump
welcome to my channel. My name is
County. Much more serious, much more concerned about the future, much more concerned about life and death.
The
and
feedback's
frankly,
coming from them,
much
by the
more
way, not
spiritual.
from me.
Yeah.
It's a different Donald Trump than the one Geraldo and you and I.
Hey everyone,
grew up
welcome
with.
to my...
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. Cenk, I mean, putting aside the fact you can't stand him, do you acknowledge he's had a lot of wins?
Well, I
look, I give
That's for
credit.
Cenk, Rudy, that's for
Rudy,
Cenk.
that one's for me too. Yeah.
Well, I know there's a
So,
big,
look,
big
I give
noise
credit where
behind me,
credit
I'm
is
sorry.
due.
Yeah, give him
That's
credit.
So, yeah, no, on some things. So, look, I think that the budget bill's a disaster. I think that it's going to pass and it's going to create $4 trillion deficit. And they always give away tax cuts for the rich and then go, oh, golly gee, I don't know how we wound up with such a big debt. It's because of Republicans who passed these giant tax cuts. And I can go, and I don't like Marines in the streets. There's a million things that I criticize Donald Trump on that, and he deserves that criticism. But the proof's going to be in the pudding, right? So if he walks back all the tariffs, as he's in the middle of doing now, he closes the border, and this is the critical part. If he gets a two-state solution, which just sounds so unbelievable, right? But if he gets that to happen, then there's no way that you could stop his popularity. Because at that point, he will be a peace president. He probably will win a Nobel Peace Prize. And it'll cement his legacy. And there's nothing that anybody can do about it. But that's a giant if, right?
Sure.
But if he allows Israel, which is much more likely, if he allows Israel to continue the slaughter in Gaza, he continues having them agitate for war in Iran, and he continues with the tariffs, he continues with Marines in the streets and National Guard in the streets, et cetera, then he's going to continue to be more and more unpopular. So the jury is very much out right now.
All right, Geraldo, I thought Rudy hit on something there.
Think perspective.
I
can see what
Rudy
you're
has slipped
saying.
off into the night, I think, but thank you. Unexpected bonus.
It's true. Like, if he does somehow cause a two-state solution, brings about peace, tells Israel to chill the fuck out and stop trying to kill everyone, that could be a really good thing for the people over there. We'll see what happens.
To having return. The thing you said, though, about Trump being a changed man since the assassination attempt, I've definitely detected that when I've talked to him. I also think he's a man who got a second lease at life, a second lease at the presidency, and he's on a mission, a real fast-track mission to get stuff done, because he knows come the midterms that things may slow down. He might get paralyzed in terms of his ability to get stuff through. So he's on a mission in these first 2 years, I think, to get as much done as he possibly can, and to do it in a pretty blunt and often quite savage way, because he knows from his first term that if you don't do that, you won't get stuff done.
Well, I think I agree and disagree. I disagree because I believe that his draconian policies toward undocumented immigrants in this country, not the border. The border's fine, sealed the border, but the people who are here, who have proven to be law-abiding and hard-working and God-fearing and family-oriented, what they are living in terror now. I'll tell you right now, Piers, I've never seen anything like it, particularly Hispanic.
Hey everyone, welcome to...
It hits close to home. It is, you can't find workers now, service people. The Hamptons are in panic over, you know, our affluent holiday spa in the eastern end of Long Island now. Can't find Mexicans to come and work there. It's shocking and it's awful. In terms of his spirituality, just very, very briefly, he's been always extremely easy to underestimate. He's, you know, he has all kinds of enemies everywhere he turns, but he has gone through the list of achievements that you listed. There is so impressive, it's historic, and he's a slam dunk, I think, for the Nobel Prize, particularly if he get Gaza and Ukraine, if he can figure those out. Then God bless him, he deserves it, absolutely.
Yeah, Lindy, I mean, I thought Gerardo made a good point there. I don't understand about the deportation.
All right, anyways, what is my perspective on this? Interesting. I don't know. Zohran Mamdani's past, like, he's a young guy, so he obviously came up in that lefty style of New York things, and maybe he's made a lot of mistakes in the past in terms of what he said, and I'm not sure if he genuinely believes it. Maybe he just said it to fit in, but that's also a sign of weakness as well. It's two ways here. It really depends on what he's trying to poll here. He's trying to get the young, the medium voters. Who is it? Really, only 5% of the vote. Who's he truly trying to attract into, you know, his residency? It's really hard to tell, to be honest. I'm gonna yeah, I don't know.